Hi there, this is Carl Irwin with another look at Musescore 4 and its capability to render final mockups. So this is actually a mockup for a film score that I'm currently working on. It's an animation short. And I love the animations because animations are usually where, at least my experience as a composer for short films, and even as a viewer, in observation as I look at major motion pictures, I find that the best film scores are in the animations. It's not in the live action. The live action stuff usually, particularly the more serious and dramatic the live action movies are, the more bland the music seems to be, and the less opportunity for musical conventions to convey a narrative. So I'm really enjoying this one because I'm able to do things that musicians like to do, like modulate and get into different keys, move around a little bit. But this is just a slightly truncated variation of the score I'm working on. There's an open space in the middle of it where there's another tune that plays, and I've kind of removed that for this right now. We're in late animatics for this film project, and it'll be locked in picture around March, finished in the spring. But the film score is pretty well written and locked in. The director is happy with what we have going on here. So I'm just going to play this for you. And one thing we're going to highlight is the addition of the new guitar sounds. Up to this point, I'd actually sequenced this using the MS Classic sounds, and which was fine. I had to nuance a lot of the dynamics and articulation in order to get that to sound passable. And I merely just dropped the new sound. I put the steel guitar in on top of it because it was closest to what the director has been hearing all along. I more so probably envisioned a nylon classical guitar, but I'll probably need to settle for this because it's what the director has been hearing and it's what he's approved. So anyway, let me play this for you and then we'll discuss it. It's not very long, just a couple minutes of music here. Okay, so that's the score, and it is a. I'll explain. It's a picture. It's actually a very sentimental picture. Obviously, it's about a father-son relationship, and they're on a car ride to college, and there's a couple of little moments in there, and kind of a big epiphany that happens near the end, the climactic moment where there's a bond that is made based on a photograph that was taken from a particular place along the journey, a place that they visited whenever this son was much younger. So that's the basic premise of the movie. Very sentimental, kind of sweet sounding music. Very fun to write. I think fun to listen to as well. So now, just quickly to reiterate from other videos that you may have seen about this concept of mock-up. Through Musescore 4. This is not intended to be read. So as you're looking at the score passing by and you're saying, oh my goodness, it is oversaturated with dynamics, and things seem to be kind of dirtily placed, a very messy sort of layout. No one would want to read that. Well, it's not intended to be read. It's actually intended to be played by the playback engine to my exact specification. So what we're doing is we're replacing MIDI data entry and controller data, which would be very, very extensive for a good mock-up in a DAW, with oversaturation of dynamic controls and articulations and various kinds of other notational elements that get us the kind of sound that we want, various rolls that are placed on there, pedal points, and et cetera, et cetera. So this is really never going to be read by people. This is supposed to be a mock-up that is realistic, and I argue that Musescore 4 has this capability right now to do final mock-ups. If you can get over that conceptual block that the notation needs to be written for people to play, and even if they're never going to play it, and that should sound realistic. That's not how MIDI data works, so I don't know why we should expect that from notation. But if you can get over that kind of mental block, those of you that are literate in notation, you actually have a really, really good resource here to create fast, editable, and logical mock-ups that are very precise. So that's it, and I did want to show off those guitar sounds. Now, I did not really use, I think, the great features of the new guitar sounds, because I literally dropped in the new sound onto the old notation entry for the MS Classic guitar. So I may go back slowly and little by little and replace a few nuanced issues in there, places where I was implying pitch bends using various kinds of dynamic techniques, and I might replace it with the new pitch bends that do exist now with that instrument. So you'll note that it's probably not written economically for the new sounds, and that is because I just dropped the sound into something that was already created for another sound. I also want to point out this is that in this new version, we also have the capability to go to sound fonts and select from the MS Basic Classic Sounds the individual sounds. So this is another update, and also that means that with other sound fonts, we're able to have a sound font with a bank of sounds, a bank of presets, and we're able now to navigate. And what that means, at least in terms of the go-between without the VST capability or the LV2 capability, is you can in Linux, you can take your SFZ libraries, your really, really great libraries, at least the ones that don't rely on mod wheel dynamics, the ones that rely on just velocity. You can export those to SF2 using Polyphone and then bring those libraries into Musescore. So if you have any SFZ libraries that fill in some holes that Musescore doesn't have, you can create SF2s. Now you can bring them into a Musescore 4 and you can navigate multiple presets from those SF2s. So another really, really great update. But anyway, I do want to take a moment, though, to talk about this. This is for a film score. You can see at the top I've got cue points are written in here. So I have moments where I have notations from the spotting of the film indicating what's happening in the action so that I can compose to it. Now, the issue, as I've been saying all along with Musescore 4, is that they dumped the MIDI timecode synchronization capability in the update to Musescore 4. We used to have this in Musescore 3, particularly in Linux, where we could sync through Jack to MIDI timecode aware video players and other applications that also had MIDI input and export output sockets. We don't have that anymore. And I just want to point to the GitHub situation right now. So here's GitHub, and these are the projects, the open projects that are going on for Musescore 4. You see the various projects that we have. We have the previous ones, Musescore 4.1, the just past one, 4.11, which was an update. The current one, Musescore 4.2, which just hit within the last day or two. And then there's already a Musescore 4.2.1, which has some corrections for the current iteration. And then, of course, the forward-looking design, which will be 4.3. Now, I want to point out what's going on here. So the very next update, 4.2.1, already they have these things that need to be ported, mostly dealing with engraving issues and interface problems that are not necessarily showing up the way they want them to be. A few issues to fix related to dynamics. Dynamic controls. Now, if we jump over here to 4.3, you'll see this is the forward. This is what we're looking at in the future. We have, again, issues with various kind of playback issues and engraving problems. Most of this is engraving. It's almost all engraving. A lot of engraving desires and wishes. The very last version was all about guitar engraving, putting guitar engraving in there and adding those guitar sounds, which are very much appreciated. And I wanted to take the time to highlight that. But I want to take you over here to the community project page. So this is the one. This is the page, I'll be very blunt, this is the page where the developers don't really care. I mean, they're not working on this stuff. The Musescore core developers are not touching these projects, these updates, these issues. And you can see what these updates are. Some of them have to do with engraving. Some of them have to do with very niche sort of issues like bagpipes. You know, it's not a very widely needed issue to deal with bagpipe engraving and various other kinds of issues. But I want to take you down here to this category, which is the big category, what they call the big category. There's a middle category, which if you look at the top, the way they designate it is medium, stuff that can be done within a weekend is what they say. And on here you have implement VST support for Linux done in a weekend. I just want to remind you that Musescore 4 came out a year ago, and as a release, it was in beta before that, but it came out as a release a year ago, and we still don't have a core feature available for Linux. They still have not taken care of this. They've left it to the community. And the assumption here, and they're going to say that it's not true, but they have to prove it's not true. I believe this is true. It is evidently true. It's self-evidently true that they expect the community to demonstrate a need. And not just a community user base, but a community developer base. This is sitting here because no community developer for Linux has jumped on it to fix it. And what what they're saying essentially is that if you in the Linux community want this, well, you're going to have to do it yourself. Not just you yourself, but the community developers. Now, I just want to point out there's not that many community developers. There's a wide base of community users. The change is based on community developer input, and that is a wrong metric. The desire to have this feature is not based on developers, it's based on users. And users want to have this, but there's a blind eye turned to it. I'll take you down here to the big one, the big category. This is a regression, where in Musescore 4 we lost a major feature that Linux people were using considerably. It's a feature that is very much in line with other proprietary software that's out there on other platforms, Mac and Windows, and that is synchronization, or MIDI export output sockets and input sockets. So we have this here, Musescore not supporting jack audio in Linux anymore. This isn't pertaining just to the audio side of it, but actually the real issue is the MIDI side of jack support. Now, some people are saying, well, wouldn't it be great if instead of having jack support, there was actually a video player? And my answer is, yeah, that would be great, but nobody's working on that. So stop talking about it like it's a thing. There is no alternative. And I've said this 1,000 times now. There is no alternative. This is the way to do it. This is the only one that exists. And as of a short while ago, someone was actually assigned to this and working on it, but now nobody's assigned to it. It's left to the developers, the Linux developers, to demonstrate interest. It's never going to happen. I'm just going to say this. Look, you, Musescore 4 core developers, you need to do this. You need to handle this. You are responsible for some of these lost features. And I'm just going to say this. You've made this awesome engine. I would put this up against any sound library in any digital audio workstation environment. This is that good. Absolutely. All the way. This is that good. You've made this thing, but yet you don't want us to use it for what we use mockups for, and that is media creation. Like, what is wrong with you guys? What's wrong with you? Don't you understand what you could have here? You could have people like me out there touting the superiority of this platform and its ability to mock up for media music. You could have us out there, but instead I have to make these videos and say, wow, this is a great engine. And I have to do a backflip through a Cheerio in order to make this work for media music. I have to work from DAW, get a map, and then I have to recreate the map inside the application, write the music, export the music, bring it back into DAW to check it. I don't have a function that should be completely normal and expected, and has been for over 20 years now in a notation program. It should be there. This is, all the other ones have had this forever, and even Musescore had this capability until the quote-unquote update to Musescore 4, in which we had a major regression. Just fix it, guys. If something can be done in a weekend, well, dad nabbit, go do it. Like, what's the matter with you, right? If something takes a little bit more time, well, this is a major feature that can get a huge amount of mileage on your software as the superior way to accomplish a major need in music composition today in the 21st century, and that is media music. And this is really what we write a lot of music for, is media production and mock-up. So I just want to say it again and again and again. And all I'll say in conclusion here is this is a request. Please stop pushing back on my complaint. Your pushback makes no sense. There's going to be particularly one person in particular that is on the forums will come back and say, yes, but this is not actually needed by a lot of people. It's just, we've prioritized things. Stop saying that. Stop. That's cover. You're just running cover for a reluctance to just fix this problem. You're running cover. Obviously, media composition is the biggest thing. I mean, your platform is online. Your sound download is online. Your library maintenance is online. Your tutorials are online. Everything has video explanation to it. Media music is where music lives. This is something that's essential for that. Stop. You're just running cover for people not doing this job. Just put some of the other things that I'm sure are very wanted and very vital. Can you just set those on the back burner for a week and get this sorted out and get it in there? That's what I'm asking. Just kind of put some of these other things that I understand are very important to a lot of people. Just set it aside for a moment and get some of these other things that are very, very big and critical for a lot of people and would get you a lot more, YouTube and social media press, get it running already. Anyway, awesome capability. Really nice sounds have been brought in the guitar side. I'm not bashing Musescore 4 entirely. I'm telling you the good as well. There's a lot of really good out there, a ton of good. There's a lot of really good, a lot of great out there. But man, you guys are really missing the boat on this critical feature. Like, get to it already. This ought to be done yesterday. This should be a major, major priority so that this really hot engine that you've created can be used where it is desperately needed. And that is in media music mockup. Good luck. Happy composing, happy mixing.